You will never see Matt James ever again. Ooh, sign me up. Me first. Hello and welcome back to another episode of No Rose, All Thorn. My name is Amelia Wedemeyer, and today, oh my God, you guys, we're here, we're done. The Bachelor has concluded, and we will be dissecting all of the moments from the finale and after the final rose. All right, as I'm sure you found out probably weeks ago, but Rachael Kirkconnell was the winner. She won the season, and if you watched any prior episodes, you know she was gonna be the winner from like the get-go. He had an instant connection with her, and you know, there's nothing really more to say about that than it's just really unfortunate. It wasn't really a satisfying ending. It was just kind of like meh, which honestly sums up this entire season. This entire season has been really meh. Let's also talk about Michelle. It's amazing. It's amazing to me the mistake Matt made when he picked Rachael over Michelle. Anyway, Michelle ends up going first, and she and Matt have a really fun date where they scale down the sides of Nemacolin because if you remember, this is a quarantine bachelor, so they don't have any more ideas. And then after that, they're sitting down and they're about to have like a dinner, and you know, she's like, Matt, I got you a present. And it was a jersey with his name on it, like Mr. James, and then another jersey for her that said Mrs. James, and it was very sweet. But this somehow triggers some kind of response in Matt, like flight or fight. And Matt is like, oh, whoa, this is a little too much. This is going a little too fast for me, which is absurd, but that's just the kind of guy Matt is. So he tells Michelle, he's like, you know, I just don't see you in my life. You're not my person. And Michelle is like, I just gave you 2 jerseys as a gift and you're just gonna tell me that I'm not your person? And, you know, she cries, obviously. It's a very unceremonious goodbye. And Matt's just like, I feel horrible. And he cries too. And wouldn't you know, Chris Harrison shows up to console him. He's like, I'm not doing well, Chris. And then another shocking tidbit of information came out during the After the Final Rose. When Michelle was being interviewed, she was like, yeah, so after he broke up with me, I asked him if we could talk for 2 minutes. I wasn't going to try to persuade him to choose me, but he didn't even give me those 2 minutes. Like, he told me, no, I can't talk with you. You can't give the girl who said she was in love with you and you caused all of her heartbreak 2 minutes to say something to you. You gave her no closure. Thankfully, she did get some closure because obviously she was brought out on After the Final Rose, and so was Matt. You know what? Michelle, I love Michelle. She carried her head high. She looked phenomenal. She totally dragged him. She told him that, I hope you come up with more lines than thank you for sharing that. And then went on to also drag him for kissing with his eyes open. So Michelle really got the last laugh. And in the end, she kind of won. You know, she gets to be one of the 2 next bachelorettes. And Matt is left kind of heartbroken and in a crappy position. So, you know, he should have picked Michelle from the get-go, but it's safe to say that Michelle is on to bigger and better things. After the final rose, as you know, Chris Harrison was replaced by Emmanuel Acho. And interestingly enough, even though Chris Harrison was replaced, he did the voiceovers announcing Emmanuel onto the show. It was just very jarring. It was like, this is really weird. Emmanuel Acho, he did a great job. He asked some really tough questions that needed to be asked, but also handled everyone there with just like a really calming presence. He also had some very funny moments that I think they were inadvertent. Like there was this one point where he told both Michelle and Rachael on separate occasions that this will probably be the last time they ever speak to Matt ever again, which that made me laugh out loud. We also learned from Matt and Rachael that they're no longer together, and he broke up with her after learning about her plantation photos. And he was saying that, you know, his feelings aren't going to go away overnight, obviously. Like, I think he's still kind of in love with her. She clearly was still in love with him. She kept on saying that he was the love of her life. and how, you know, royally she screwed things up, which she definitely did. And Matt just told her, he's like, you know, I'm really happy that you're putting in the work to educate yourself, but, you know, I can't be around and wait for you to do that emotional labor. And he also explains, because Emmanuel is like, well, you know, she's clearly a different person than she was in 2018 than she is today. And Matt says something along the lines of, if you didn't know that those pictures were bad in 2018, then there's a lot of that you don't know and you don't understand, which I think was a really powerful statement. But then after, you know, all that awkwardness, there was like a moment when Emmanuel at the end, he was like, so you guys, why don't you hug for one last time? And they cut to Matt and Rachael, and oh my God, I mean, it was silence. It was so awkward. You could cut the tension with a knife, and they didn't do it, obvious. I mean, no, of course not. Oh my God, so awkward. And, you know, that's kind of how the show ended. It ended on a very sad, awkward note, only to have Emmanuel, he was like, okay, well, guess what? We have a new surprise. And so they brought on Michelle and Katie, and they were like, these are your new 2 bachelorettes, yay! And I guess we put aside Matt's season, and we were like, let's go Katie and Michelle. So yeah, so that was weird. I guess what a fitting end to not the best season I've ever watched. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me on this journey throughout the season. Make sure you're subscribed to The Ringer, and we will see you back for more Bachelor videos.